Hello, welcome back. My name is Charlie, and I am the father of 2 little boys, and I am also a pretty big reader, and reading is important to me and to my wife, and so for the past 2.5-ish years, we have been trying to foster a household of readers, really trying to get my kids into it and engaged and excited about it, and through that process, we have read hundreds of children's books. Some of them are truly abysmal, and most of them fall in the range of like fine to good, but some of them really stand out. Some children's books are fantastic, and those are the ones that I'm going to talk about today. The ones that are so good that I'd save them from a fire. This isn't necessarily going to be like a comprehensive list of the top 10 children's books that exist. It's not even necessarily my top 10 list, but these are 10 that I would save from a fire. So they have some meaning to me that we'll go into. I'm going to kick it off with an honorable mention here. Pete the Cat, Pete at the Beach. This is not a fantastic book by all means. It's decent. It's like one of those I can read books. So, it's for early readers. But the reason that I'm bringing this book up at all today is, again, not because it's phenomenal, but because there's a part in it where Pete the Cat learns how to surf. And the very first time that I was reading this to my son, I copied Pete the Cat. And so, Pete the Cat has to like lie down on the board and paddle out and then jump up and then surf. That's pretty much it. But I did that and my son did it with me. And that was like the first time that we together like interacted with a book in that way, like full body interaction. It was super fun, and this book just holds a lot of meaning to me. So if I could grab an 11th book, it would be this. But the other 10 that I'm going to talk about here are much better. I'm going to kick it off with one that you've probably heard of. This is a very popular book, Little Blue Truck, just the base Little Blue Truck, like the regular, the original story. It's so good. I love this one. We picked this up real early on when my first was a baby, and I've read it a million times since then. If you've heard of any book on this list, it will probably be this one. But it's here for a reason. It's great. The rhyme structure is really strong. Little Blue Truck is a really fun character. A lot of kids like trucks, so that just works. My son's not even really like a truck guy, but he likes Little Blue Truck. And honestly, there are so many animals in this book, which is really fun because my son is really into animals, so that definitely boosts it. But I don't know, maybe this book is partially responsible for him being into animals. You get to go through a lot of them. You get to make the sounds that the animals make, so you get to play a little bit with voice, which I always think is really fun when you get to do like a little acting out of the characters. And then there's the dump truck, and you get to do your deep voice, and the dump truck gets stuck and all that stuff. It's just fun. And then the story is great too. Like as they get older, they get to hear about teamwork and friendship and how it's important to be nice to people, because when you need their help, they're not going to help you if you're a big old grump like the dump truck. But if you're nice like Little Blue, they'll help you, right? That's nice. It's a nice story. The rhyme is great, and you get to do a lot of voices, and you get to introduce your kids to animals, and it's just a good time. Great book. I've read it a million times, and I will read it a million more. This next one I honestly wish was a household name because I think this is so good. The Cafe at the Edge of the Wood by Mikey Please. I don't know a ton about Mikey Please, but he seems like a really interesting guy. He's like an animator, and he also has like adult novels, or at least one novel sounds really good. I want to pick that up. But all I know about him really is that he wrote this, and it's phenomenal. One of the main things I love about this story is that the rhyme structure is unique to other children's stories that I've read. I've not read another children's story out of the hundreds that I've read that follows this rhyme structure. I feel like there's like a few select standard flows to most children's stories, and this is not that. The first time I read it, I didn't even really get it. Like I didn't know how to read it. I stumbled over it a few times until I got into the rhythm. It's not complicated, but it took me a second. But I think it's really fresh, and I love that. He took a risk there, and it paid off, I think. I cannot speak highly enough about the artwork in here. I'm looking at it here. Maybe I'll show some on the screen. It's really cool, really distinct too. Like I could see Mikey Please's artwork and know that it was his and that it belongs in one of these books, because there are more. I own book 1 and 2. Book 2 is called The Cave Downwind of the Cafe, and there is a third one out that I have not picked up yet, but I really want to. I think it's out. If it's not out yet, it'll be out soon. Again, the art is phenomenal in both of these, and the story is really clever too. Renee over here on the cover, she saves up all her money and she opens up a cafe, the cafe at the edge of the wood, right? And then she puts up a help wanted sign, and this little weirdo over here, Glumfoot, answers it, and he comes in and she hires him, and that's great. And they try to have this business, but they're not getting any customers, but then finally they do. They get a customer, and it's an ogre, the same ogre over here in book 2, same dude. But when Renee is reading him the menu, he doesn't want any of it. He thinks it sounds gross, and he wants like pickled bats and things like that, right? Ogre food. But she's a chef, and she wants to make real food for this ogre. So she gets frustrated. She leaves. She goes to the back. She's like, Glumfoot, it's over. I'm not doing it. But then Glumfoot comes up with a plan, and he goes back there, and he gives her an order, and he says that the ogre's changed his mind. Make this food. So she makes the food, and then on his way back, he rearranges it so that it looks like all this gross stuff that he wanted, right? Like bugs and stuff like that. It's clever. It's really cute. My only complaint, and it's not really a complaint, it's just something that you should know, is that it's definitely written to be read in like an English accent. So there's some rhymes that don't work in my accent. Like he rhymes door and floor with jaw, which doesn't work with the way that I say jaw. And he does it in both books, honestly. The same words too. It doesn't matter. Phenomenal books. The art alone is worth looking at. But yeah, stay for the whole story. It's fantastic. Another favorite of mine is Goodnight Gorilla. This is a little bit of an older book. Not that old, but it feels like a bit of a classic, so you may be familiar with this one. What I love about this book, not only does it introduce you to a ton of animals, and they're like zoo animals, right? So Little Blue Truck gets you the farm animals. This one takes you to the zoo. But aside from that, there's very minimal text in this book. There's a few lines throughout the book, and most of them are just like, good night, X, like as the zookeeper goes around, he tells different animals good night, and then he gets home to his wife and he says good night, dear, and that's pretty much it. Like there's nothing else. So the rest of the story you just have to kind of come up with on your own, or you could just read the words, I guess, but I like to tell more about like what's going on when I'm reading it to my son, and that's super fun because you kind of get to play with it, and it's a little bit different every time. There's also in the artwork, there's like little details in the background that's really fun to pick up on. There's 2 things in particular. If you pick up this book, watch the balloon and watch the mouse, because they're 2 things that are just happening subtly in the background. They're not pointed out at any point, or the mouse I guess kind of has a line at the end, but you get to play with it. So you get to tell the story how you want to tell it today, and the next time it could be a little bit different. You could focus on different stuff. The gorilla does something naughty in it, and when he gets busted, he goes like ee, and my son and I go ee every time he does that, and that's really fun. It's a good time. I highly recommend Goodnight Gorilla. This next one, I don't actually have a copy of it. This is one we get from the library, which, by the way, for children's books especially, definitely utilize your library. Children's books can get kind of expensive, especially when they're so short, and your kid likely wants hundreds of them. So definitely, if you have a good library system, utilize it for children's books. But anyway, Out of a Jar. This book is so good. Very different from the other ones that I've mentioned so far. This one's like a little bit more like serious, or at least the theme is more serious, and it's a really important theme too. The artwork is adorable. The main character is adorable, but they are having big emotions that they don't want to have, so they put them literally into jars. So they bottle them up and they put those jars into a closet. Eventually there's no more room in the closet, and the jars break and all the emotions come spilling out. It's a really important lesson, I think, learning about bottling up your emotions and how that's bad, and how eventually they're just going to come pouring out. That's important. I think this is a really cool way to show that. It's beautifully told. It's really, really well done. Very clear, very digestible, and just, yeah, my son gets it. He understands what the words are. I don't know if it's helping him internalize that bottling up emotions is bad, but I hope it is. I could see that it would. I had a book like this growing up called The Hurt. That was a very similar concept. It was like a boy had the hurt behind him, and it grew and it grew and it grew until it was too big and it couldn't fit in his room until he told somebody about it. So similar concept. That one stuck with me. I'm hoping that this one sticks with my son. In kind of a similar vein in terms of like the theme and the message told, Grumpy Monkey. This one's a weird one for me to put on the list because my son honestly doesn't give a toot about Grumpy Monkey, but I love Grumpy Monkey. I think this guy's great. I think he's really funny. I think you get to make a lot of really fun voices in here because you're voicing like jungle animals. I don't know. I like to play with the voices in this book. It's really fun. The monkey is grumpy, right? Chimpanzee is the monkey's name. That's very clever. Everybody's telling him that he's grumpy, and he's like, I'm not grumpy, but you are grumpy. And everybody's telling you look grumpy. And so he tries to pretend not to be grumpy. He loosens up his shoulders, he raises his eyebrows, he puts on a smile, and then it talks about how he looked happy, but he didn't feel happy. It's a little bit similar to that last one in that it's talking about your emotions and how to process them and how it's not really always easy to process your emotion. And at the end, the monkey sits down with his buddy, and they talk about how sometimes you just gotta be grumpy. And just feel your emotions. And again, I think that's an important message. Don't just pretend that you're not having your emotions. Feel your emotions. That's good. That's healthy. So, good book. This next one, I honestly don't know how I found this one. I think maybe I just thought the bear on the cover was cute, but Willow and the Wildflowers. Maybe it's more popular than I think it is, but it should be more popular. I think it's really good. It's about this cute little bear, Willow, and she wants to go see the wildflowers, but she's scared to leave her house, and so she doesn't want to do it. But she works up the courage, and she's brave, and she goes. But she's scared of various things along the way, and then she meets friends who talk her through it. She has to get in the water, and the frog is telling her like, "Oh no, water's great. I swim in the water. You should get in. It's totally fine." A raccoon tells her darkness isn't so scary. Like nighttime's not scary. It's good. This is a good time. Just you'll be fine. Things like that. It's cute. It's a story about friendship and being brave and overcoming your fears and things like that. Really good book. I don't know. I wish more people were talking about it, so I'm talking about it. This next one, I have one beaten up board book copy of this book. I have read this almost every night to our 9-month-old for his whole life. We read it every night before bed, which is why I don't have it. It's upstairs on the table next to our chair in his room. But Jamberry is a classic. This is an old book, and it's just really fun. The words don't really make any sense, but there's a fun like sing-songy way about the rhyme. It's really cute. The art is really inventive. There's every time you look at one of the pages, there's like new things to find. It's really cool. And there is no story really. I mean, they're getting berries, I guess, but not really. It is not really a story that makes sense, but it's cute and it's fun. It's a good time. Maybe I'm mostly grabbing this one because again, I do need it for bedtime. This next one is another one of my all-time favorites. I don't remember where I got this. I think it was a gift from someone. I don't remember who, but if it was you, thank you. I love this book. Plenty of Pancakes. Nope. Dozens of Donuts. And honestly, the sequel, Plenty of Pancakes as well, but Dozens of Donuts is probably the superior of the two. This is so good. It's about a bear going into hibernation, and they're just making donuts for themselves. That's all they want. They want to make a ton of donuts so they can just eat a bunch and then go through the winter on a belly full of donuts, which is like the way I want to be, right? Like that's the goal. But before she can sit down and enjoy her donuts, ding dong, somebody's at the door. So she says, "Come on in. I just made donuts. Pull up a chair. You can have some." So half of them go to them. The rest are for Luann. But ding dong, there's another friend. Ding dong, somebody else. Ding dong. That keeps happening. And I'm saying ding dong because in the book, whenever a new friend is there, it says ding dong. And my son gets up and he pokes the book and he says ding dong. And it's very fun. It's one of the first like interactive books that he's had, or interactive in the way of like actually interacting with the pages. It's not super interactive, but when it says ding dong, I don't say it. He says it. And I think that sort of thing is great. Like when you have tangible evidence that he's capturing the story and that he's absorbing some of what's happening on the page. Because sometimes you have no idea if they're really getting anything that you're saying. But this one gave me proof that he does. He does pay attention. He does understand a little bit of what's happening. And the story is just great. A lot of different animals. You get to do, again, voices for all these different characters. And yeah, at the end, it all comes together in a really nice way. And then Plenty of Pancakes is also really fun. It's the sequel, so it doesn't go on my list like formally, but it picks up kind of after hibernation and all the friends are making pancakes. Anyway, it's great. It's a good time. This next one is, again, like a big one. This is not an underground read. This is The Gruffalo by Julia Donaldson. Julia Donaldson is a legend. She's got a ton of phenomenal books out there. We've read several. We own 3, like this, Zog, and one other one. We don't have Room on a Broom. That's a good one. There's a lot of good ones. But Gruffalo is my favorite of her books by far. I think, again, because of the voices that you get to make. You get to be the mouse, you get to be a fox, you get to be a snake, an owl, and then the Gruffalo, which is really fun because what's a Gruffalo? What does that thing sound like? You really get to play with that. And the story is great. It's all about like being clever and how your brain is more important than your brawn sometimes. The mouse, it comes across all these animals that kind of want to eat the mouse, but thinking smart, they're like, oh, no, you don't want to do that. I'm on my way to meet a Gruffalo, who's this made-up being, right? But the mouse describes this Gruffalo to the fox or the snake and the owl, and they get spooked, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm out of here. I don't want to be anywhere near you right now. But then the Gruffalo's real, and then the mouse has to convince the Gruffalo that actually I'm really scary and you're scared of me. And it's really clever. I really appreciate that. And again, the voices you get to make, it's too fun. So that goes on my list for sure. Now, this next one is the last on the list, but probably the first that I would grab. This book is so good. This is called Monster Hands. I wish this was a household name. I don't know if it ever will be, but I want that for this book so badly. My family and I went upstate somewhere, and there was a bookstore there, and we were in there talking to the owner, and she was, saying she had a daughter the age of my son, and that daughter was deaf. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like I have a bunch of deaf family, and we were talking about that. And then she pushed this book, and she was like, oh, you should check this book out, Monster Hands. Obviously, I immediately bought it because it's a children's book that incorporates deafness, and I needed to know what that was going to be like. We have a lot of books of like baby's first signs, but I don't have any other children's books about deaf characters, so that was neat. And I got it home, and it's phenomenal. And I don't even honestly know if this is like about deaf characters. Like, they don't make a big deal about that. They don't talk about how they're deaf, but it is about characters who communicate using sign language. At the back of the cover, you can see the 2 friends here and here. They're neighbors, and they're flashing their flashlight at each other to get attention. And then they talk to each other just through sign language, through their windows. And Milo, one of the characters, is expressing to his friend that he's scared and that there's a monster under his bed. And she talks him through how to scare a monster away. But the way that they do it is with their hands, right? So they make monster hands, and they roar and they chomp and they scare the monster away. So it's already a great story, right? Like the premise itself is fun. A friend helps a friend scare away a monster that's bothering them. That's a great premise. I love that. The way the story is told, or really the way it's illustrated, is just on a different level. The illustrations in general are great. They do a lot of work with like shadows on stuff, right? Like this little girl facing down a monster as she's telling a story about how she has done that before and things like that. But what really makes this book stand out is the way that the illustrator has depicted sign language, how they've shown it. It's really simple, but it works. It works really well. And I've shown this book to several people, and they can pick up these signs really easily because the author and the illustrator together, I'm sure, have decided on very specific signs to show, and then the illustrator just took it away and just did a great job showing them, I think. All the other books that I have, like about baby's first signs, it's all the same stuff. It's like milk and more, all done, things like that, So this doesn't do that. This isn't the typical words you would see. They show like idea and scared and gone and all different kinds of signs, and it's just part of their conversation that these 2 characters are having with each other. they show on the page, right? That these are the words that they are signing, and they'll bold a word and then they'll show the sign next to it. And I also just really appreciate how it's never made a big deal that they're signing, or that, one of them or both of them may or may not be deaf. It doesn't say Milo is deaf or Mel is deaf and they are communicating using sign language. Like it just happens. Milo is a person, Mel is a person, and they are communicating with each other, and that's it. And so it's the whole focus of the book. Like they're communicating using sign language the whole time, and they're fighting against this monster essentially using sign language, like with their hands and making shadow puppets, but they never call it out. It just is happening. I think that's great. A really subtle way of just spreading, like, I guess, awareness or representation of sign language in general, and potentially deaf people, right? I mean, I am assuming that these characters are deaf, but again, they don't say outright that they are. So all I can say for sure is that they're communicating using sign language. It's a really wholesome story about two friends overcoming their fears with each other, and it should be on everybody's shelf. I love this book. You don't have to know sign language to pick it up. It will teach you a few signs along the way as you go through this awesome story. It's so good. It's so good. Cannot speak highly enough about this one. And that's it. Those are the books that I'd save from fire. It's not necessarily the top 10 books that exist, but these are the ones I'm grabbing. Thank you so much for watching. I know this is different from all the other videos that I've ever made on this channel, but I think this is a space that I kind of want to enter into, because I am a guy who reads, and I am also a dad, and I would love to kind of combine that and talk about the overlap there, because I read a lot of children's books. I read a lot more children's books than I read my actual adult books. So I want to talk about that. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you're sticking around to the end, I assume you did. So thank you so much. Let me know down in the comments which children's books you would save from the fire, and if you've picked up any of these, or if I introduce you to a new one. Yeah, that's it. That's all I have for you today. Again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye.